Man, who would have thought doing introductions would be so hard? This is our third introduction. Please forgive us. I'm just gonna come in like hot right now. So this is our podcast. Yeah, I'm Terrance Reynolds for those who don't know me, and the people who probably don't know me are well, random strangers on the internet, and Paige entire audience of like coworkers and like large body of friends. Yeah, so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. This is my good friend Paige. We've been friends for like probably over 10 years now.
Yeah.
It's a really long time, isn't it? Like so much has changed.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like we grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, but we both live on like two opposite sides of the world right now. So this podcast is being brought to you by a technological experience because I am in Tokyo, Japan right now. Paige, where are you?
I am in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, so that's about what like a 16 a 15-hour time difference.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, that's a very long time. So, anyways, so let's talk about this podcast. So this podcast is titled Untitled because we haven't actually thought of a title yet. You feel me? But
It's coming though.
it's
It's
coming. It's
coming.
coming soon. Maybe by episode 10, we will have like an actual title. But this podcast premise is kind of like a book club. So every month we're gonna read a book. We're gonna try to do this every month. If we're really lucky, we can probably do this earlier. But every month we're gonna read a book. And then we're gonna come on this podcast and have a discussion about it. Now I know what you're thinking. Why a month? Like why not every week? Why not every 2 weeks or something like that? It's because I read incredibly slow. Meanwhile, Paige reads like a book a day. So it's gonna take me a month to get through some of these books. And these books is gonna be like a wide variety of topics, mostly nonfiction. I don't know, Paige. Do you read fiction books like stories about like
Mm, Here or there. Like I read fiction probably a couple times a year.
yeah?
Back in high school, I used to read fiction all the time and would read like 20 books in a month,
Yeah.
especially during the summer.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've kind of stopped reading fiction as much. That's something I want to try to get back into though. So maybe we'll have some fiction books here and there, but for the most part, we're gonna keep it a wide variety of nonfiction books.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta be honest. The last fiction book I read is, I think, The Hunger Games. I was clearly in
Oh,
high school the last time I read a fiction book. But we mostly read books that are nonfiction, like business books, marketing books, self-help books, psychology books. And it's probably because our interests kind of align a lot. Paige is she works in tech. I don't know if you feel comfortable with revealing your job, so I'm not gonna like oust you. But she works in tech and she's like very interested in creating a startup one day. And in fact, she's working on her startup product right now. Me, I also work in tech. I work at a startup company here in Tokyo, and I've been trying to build my own tech company for like damn near like a decade. So like a lot of our books is going to probably like revolve around this economics, business, marketing, kind of like categories. But
hmm.
today's book has nothing to do with that. So we're already hitting you with a curveball. Today's book is what, Paige?
So we're reading the book Attached, and this is a great book. It's by Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a guide for adult attachment and the different styles that you might exhibit in a relationship. So it's to help you find and keep love.
This is one heck of a book to start off with, don't you think? At least for me, like we were like prepping for this show, and I'm like, man, this book is like
It's
it's so
heavy.
personal. It's very heavy. Like we kind of have to like source from our own experiences, and I'm thinking in my head like, man, it's gonna be like a I'm gonna get very vulnerable. Like it's gonna be like a therapist conversation right now. Like this is our very first episode. I'm gonna be talking about a lot, at least for me, a lot about my own personal life. I'm gonna try to like
Mhm.
chop some stuff out because I don't want to out people or say too much detail. So I'm gonna leave Paige in charge of the big red edit button because we're gonna be pressing that a lot. Not I don't know. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is our first podcast, so we'll
Uh
see. We might. Oh, we might have some bloopers at the end of this. That
huh.
would be kind of funny to see how many times we, have
Messed up.
edits.
Oh, there's gonna be a lot of those. There's gonna be a lot of those. We are not professionals at all. I have no business being in front of a mic because I have no professional training. But that's why it's fun, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a good discussion. I'm excited to talk about love and relationships.
Okay.
So where do you want to start? You want to start? Let's give some background about the book Attached,
Yeah.
as well as some core concepts that our listeners or you can read along. Like you can read the book after the podcast.
Yeah.
Listeners and readers and or whatever will have some some context.
Uh,
Um, So let's start. Well, do you want to start, or would you like me to start? I have some good key points that I think would be interesting, but I think maybe a
Please.
good starting point is to talk about what are the different attachment styles.
Uh-huh.
Um, so there's three, but technically four. So you have your secure attachment style. There is avoidant. There is anxious, and then there's a weird one which is anxious avoidant.
Yeah.
And just for an FYI, I got these stats from the book, which I thought was interesting. 50% of the population is secure, 20% is anxious, 25% is avoidant, and 3 to 5% is the anxious avoidant attachment style. And
Yeah.
we can take turns going a little bit deeper into those different attachment styles, and some of the traits of them. So I'm gonna let you do the first one. Would you like to
Well,
cover secure? Oh,
well,
whatever you like.
let's establish a little bit more of a foundation. So attachment styles in relationships are fundamentally important. So most adults probably aren't familiar what attachment styles are. But Paige kind of kicked it off. There's three main categories of attachment. You have secure, you have avoidant, you have anxious. And these attachment styles it's a very powerful force in a relationship. And if you're not aware of how these attachment styles work and which one you have and your partner have, it can have a tremendous effect in your relationship. Like a lot of relationship issues and a lot of relationship misalignments kind of happen because of these attachment styles. But oftentimes we're not aware of it. So when we get into like arguments with our partners, or we get into arguments with like people we're dating and people who we're married to, et cetera, et cetera, uh, sometimes the argument isn't really about what's happening on the surface. You know what I'm saying? But it's like is this really it's this underlying need of like intimacy and how we view intimacy. So let's just get started with the three main attachment styles. And I'm just gonna like read them off verbatim. So adult attachment styles are broken up into like three main categories, like we mentioned before. There's secure, there's avoidant, and there's anxious. And these categories are determined and based on the way that you and your partner perceive and respond to intimacy in a romantic relationship, which is often parallel with the attachment style found in children. So basically, secure people feel comfortable with intimacy and are usually warm and loving. Anxious people crave intimacy and are often preoccupied with the relationship and tend to worry about their partner's ability to love them back. Avoidant people equate intimacy with a loss of independence and constantly try to minimize closeness. In addition, people with each of these attachment styles differ in these ways: their view of intimacy and togetherness, the way they deal with conflict, and their attitude towards sex, their ability to communicate their wishes, and their expectations from their partner and the relationship. That get it? Is that a good foundation?
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I also
Great.
want to add, an easy way to look at attachment styles as well is look at your anxiety levels and your comfortability with intimacy levels. So if you think of a secure person, they have pretty low anxiety about a relationship,
Right.
and they have low avoidance, aka, they're comfortable with intimacy. They don't try to avoid it.
Yeah.
Whereas an anxious person, they have like a high anxiety
Uh-huh.
and lower avoidance. So they're still comfortable with giving that intimacy, but they're anxious about the relationship. And avoidant people have low anxiety and high avoidance. So
Yeah.
they're not really worried about the relationship, but at the same time, they're uncomfortable with intimacy and they try to avoid it by any means, really.
Hmm.
And then I also just want to briefly touch on the anxious avoidant because that's like a mixture of those other two types. And that's
Okay.
where you have high anxiety and high avoidance.
Yeah.
So like not only are you anxious about the relationship and you do have a crave or like this need for intimacy, but you try to avoid it at the same time. And it's
Uh-huh.
it's really weird. It's a really weird combo, and only 3 to 5% of the population has that type of attachment style.
Yeah. So
So the
let,
book doesn't really cover the anxious avoidant type that much. It really focuses on the other three because that makes up like what 95% of the population. So
Yeah. So let's play a little game with the listeners because I'm pretty sure tons of people are thinking right now, not tons, probably dozens or maybe one or two people who are listening to this podcast is is
yeah, we
thinking,
don't have
yo,
any viewers quite yet.
not yet. We're not on prime time yet, but like they're probably thinking which attachment style am I? Not me, but like you, as in
Dang.
you, the listener. They,
Yeah.
is that how you say it? Like clearly we're not like at least I'm not a book expert. But so I'm gonna read off like three statements, and whatever statement you identify with the most, that's probably you. So statement number one. I find it relatively easy to get close to others, and I'm comfortable with depending on them and having them depend on me. I don't worry about being abandoned or about someone getting too close to me. I'm not going to reveal which one that is yet, but if you know, you know. Number two, I am somewhat uncomfortable being close to others. I find it difficult to trust them completely, difficult to allow myself to depend on them. I am nervous when anyone gets too close, and often love partners want me to be more intimate than I feel being comfortable with. Okay, so, and here's the final one. I find that others are reluctant to get as close as I would like. I often worry about my partner not loving me or won't want to stay with me. I want to merge completely with another person, and this desire sometimes scares people away. Okay. Okay. So those are three statements. Okay. And drum roll. The first statement is thank you for the drum roll page.
You're welcome.
So the first statement, the very first one, that is the secure attachment style. The second statement is the avoidant attachment style. And then the last statement is the anxious attachment style. Okay. So yeah, like
Yeah.
should we? So what should we talk about next? Should we talk about our attachment styles? Should we give more detail on attachment and where it comes from? What do you think?
Yeah, so I would love to cover the psychology behind the attachment theory.
Yeah,
And from the book, it talks about that, attachment styles, it doesn't originate from one singular source. There's multiple things that can play into, your development of an attachment style. But the main three that I got from the book is number one, your genes.
yeah,
There is a biological aspect to it. Anxious people usually have a specific pattern of a dopamine receptor called DRD2 allele, and that plays into the anxiety. Avoidant people usually have a variant of the serotonin 5 hyphen HT1A receptor.
oh man.
And so those two genes can play a part into your attachment style, which is more of that nature portion. And then there's also a nurture portion. So one other thing that can play a factor into your attachment style is your parent to child connection. So secure people in general typically had sensitive, available, and responsive parents.
Yeah,
Where an anxious person, they had like a flaky parent. Like the person was inconsistent. They were sometimes responsive, sometimes not responsive. And then the avoidant person usually had more of a rigid, distant, and unresponsive parent, and that plays a part even from infancy all the way up until through childhood. That can play a part in your development of an attachment style. And the last thing is your experiences. So if you have like your experiences with your peers as well as in your romantic relationships can also change your attachment styles.
yeah,
And I thought this was interesting. It was a I love stats, I love statistics. So 25 to 30% of the population can change their attachment style. So it's kind of like plastic where it's not stuck, it can be molded, if it's heated up and
yeah.
bent the right way.
I think the book says it can change like maybe every 4 years.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
So if you're in a relationship that's powerful enough and has a long lasting or a deep enough impact, it can definitely change your attachment styles. Which if you're in a secure person, you don't one. We should probably talk about like there's nothing wrong with having any of these attachment styles. It's really
yeah.
how you communicate with them.
I'm glad you
But
said that. Yeah,
if you're a secure person, you are statistically more likely to be happy in relationships and feel more fulfilled, opposed to anxious and avoidant people. So if you're secure and you move over to the other side of the spectrum, you might lose some like some happiness
yeah.
theoretically.
So
And then if you're of anxious or avoidant and you move towards the secure side, you'll gain happiness and fulfillment in your relationship theoretically. So you just put that out there.
so like attachment styles, like, so let's give a little bit more context to this as well. Let's keep in mind that human beings, we're kind of pre-wired to like crave closeness and intimacy with others. Like we are, it's in our natural ability to actually be into a relationship. Like at least under the most ideal circumstances, all human beings will kind of crave being inside of a relationship. But because of life experiences and maybe early childhood experiences, you may, I guess, veer off of that initial desire. So, and to give context to this, so in prehistoric times, people used to rely on each other a lot. because we had no way of protecting ourselves if we were just individuals. But when we like gathered together in tribes, the cavemen and the cave women who survived earlier on are the ones who are able to build strong bonds with others so we can look out for each other. So all of us come from descendants of people, cavemen and cave women who were mostly secure, because back in those days, if you were, I guess, avoidant and you just wanted to go do your own thing, and then like a lion or a bear or a tiger just comes after you like in the middle of the night, and it's a wrap. So you don't get to pass. So they didn't get to pass down their genes. So a lot of the secure people, a lot of maybe even like some of the anxious people, like we kind of just like continue to, I guess, pass down our genes over time. So a lot of us, a lot of our natural tendencies tend to be secure. But again, like so much of attachment styles are based on our early childhood experiences and our life experiences. So my understanding may be wrong, but I think we come out the womb being secure. But our relationship with our mother and our other parents and our family members is what kind of like push us off of that track to become other attachment styles. Like, let's take, for example, me. Like, I would like to say that at least earlier on, I was avoidant, and a lot of the reasons why I was avoidant is because of, I guess, the environment that I was raised in. So a lot of people become avoidant because they deem that they take control of that independent nature of themselves. Like, and that's probably because at a time within their life, like depending on people wasn't the best way to survive, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physiologically. So we kind of like over time just like just started to do our own thing and just figure things out because that was the best way that we can navigate through life. Now, as I got much older and as I learned to trust and rely on people. I like to believe that I became more secure over time. So, these attachment styles change like every 4 years. And I think probably like recently, I think I would like to say I'm a secure person because I no longer have that fear of trusting people, or I guess have that fear of like getting close to people because
Mhm.
nowadays I feel like I can rely on at least my close friends and the people who I've been in a relationship with.
You can't rely on me, that's for
Oh
sure.
damn,
Oh.
Paige, damn! Like you're gonna make me avoid it again. Don't make me avoid it.
Apologies, apologies. But that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think looking back at my attachment style, I think I used to sometimes teeter back and forth between anxious and avoidant,
yeah.
which sometimes make me believe that I was in that anxious avoidant category, but I could have just been very anxious and then just had like start detaching myself from situations because it's caused so much
and,
anxiety.
and
Um,
that's like largely based on like this setting that you're in currently within your lifestyle. I didn't really like explain that at first, but like if you're in like a harsh environment, like you tend to like react the opposite that that a secure attached person would. And you probably become more hyper vigilant. You probably more persistent. So your attachment style would kind of like veer over into the anxious or avoidant like territory. And more peaceful times where you have like your life is more secure and you feel more comfortable with the people around you, you're able to establish those intimate bonds by investing more into the people around you because you feel comfortable in doing so and you see the benefit in doing so. So yeah.
And to like follow up on that, to touch on secure base, I think that's something that
Yeah.
people would like to know about because it comes up in the book where it's exactly what Terrance is describing, having people who are reliable, responsive, and tentative to your needs, like that helps form an environment in which you can safely or feel more safe to move towards a more secure attachment style because
Uh,
you have someone, your secure base, that person who is basically they have your back and you know that they have your back. um uh, Tangent, I was watching a documentary on Netflix called Babies. Really great.
okay.
I didn't know so much about babies, but it also aligns to what we read in this attached book when it comes to having someone who is your secure base and how that enables you to thrive or to try new things. So the experiment goes, there was like they follow these group of mothers and parents, and um they mothers who were more responsive to their baby needs, they saw that the baby was able to go out and explore, like without any like apprehension. They like,
Yeah.
okay, cool, mom's in the corner, she got my back, I'm going to explore this environment. Those babies were secure babies.
Yeah.
But then on the opposite side, there were babies who, every 10 seconds they're looking like, okay, is mom there? Is mom there? And if mom got up and
Anxious.
left, they would start crying. They weren't able to,
Yeah.
explore their surroundings. And so it's having a secure base. And even the babies, going back to the first set of babies that, they were exploring their environments, they were okay even when their mom left the room,
Yeah.
because they knew mom was coming back.
But
And that's important.
talk about the avoidant, because the guess what the avoidant babies do? Like, so when mama leaves the room, the avoidant babies be acting like, yo, like I'm good. I ain't worried about nothing. I'm about to play with my toy blocks and stuff like that, and just like not even recognize that mom left the room. But when they actually test those babies for like cortisol, the stress hormone, these babies are actually
Mhm.
extremely stressed out. And when the mother comes back, those babies exhibit, and I don't want to like, I'm going to foreshadow a little bit. They tend to exhibit, what is it, a deactivating strategy, and they
Yes.
like subtly try to push the mom away when the mother comes back to like reestablish that connection with them.
They're
And
like,
they,
no, we don't want that.
yeah, they kind of act mean and cold. So yeah, that's a great point that you brought up.
Yeah, and actually I went ahead and I drew a diagram of the deactivating strategies as well as activating
You want
strategies.
to introduce it before I show the diagram, or are you going to like talk
Yes,
about
for
it
sure.
as you show the diagram?
So I'm going to talk a bit about it and then I will show the diagram.
Okay.
Um but like the so you have two different, you got the activation and the deactivation strategies that
Yeah.
align with the different systems. So when an anxious person feels like there is a threat to their relationship standing, their attachment system is activated. So one thing is you might excessively try to reestablish connection. So, like for example, maybe your spouse and you got into an argument about something, or your partner and you got into some type of argument, and your partner hangs up the phone, or your partner
Hmm.
says, "You know what? I want to talk to you later." An anxious person would view that as a threat to the relationship,
Yeah.
and they would, the worst things will go through their head, like this person doesn't love me, like they're going to break up with me, this is the end of the relationship, even though that might not be the case.
Yeah.
And they will try to reestablish connection by, for example, calling 20 times in a row, calling 10
Calling,
times in a row,
texting, emailing,
texting, yep,
50
trying to
text messages in
reestablish.
one night.
Just trying to really reestablish, maybe even showing up on your front door, and
Pulling up
who
at their
knows,
workplace, like, yo, what's good? Where you been at? I haven't seen you in
like
a while.
you hung up on me.
Yeah.
um
Okay,
something
what's
else the person
yeah. Go ahead.
the person might also try to withdraw.
Uh,
So they might, say, you know what, this
silent
person,
treatment.
yeah, the silent treatment, or even doing some type of manipulation, such as like you're acting busy when you're not, you're pretending to be unapproachable, you're ignoring their phone calls. You might play tick for tack or have like a little petty war going on where you're like,
Team
well,
petty.
petty. I was gonna say something else, but anyway, where you're like, where you're being really petty, where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I like you took 3 hours to call me back, Terrance. I am not gonna call you back for 3 hours now. I'm gonna avoid your phone calls for 3 hours because I feel like you slighted me.
Okay. I'm cool
Um,
with that.
and another thing, which is which can be very problematic in a relationship, is you might try to make your partner feel jealous. You might try to post some pictures of you at the bar with like a cute other person. You might post some things on social media to make that person feel jealous, which is all from an attachment standpoint or from an anxious standpoint. You're really just trying to establish that reconnection, but
Yeah.
you're doing it in ways that are potentially unhealthy. Whereas an avoidant person, they're the opposite. Like if you are in an argument, like not even argument setting, but like say like you want to take it to the next step of your relationship, you want to hold hands in public, the avoidant person might say, you know what, that's too intimate for me, so I'm going to start avoiding physical closeness. I'm going to keep secrets and keep things a little bit foggy to maintain my independence. I might flirt with others, or they might have this symptom called phantom X, which is where you
Mhm.
kind of like look back at previous relationships and say, that was the relationship I should have been in. Like my ex would never do this, my ex would respect this boundary, my ex this and that. And that's also problematic because you're comparing a relationship that ended for a reason to another relationship that is current that you're having, all because you're fearful of that intimacy
Yeah.
and getting close and
Also,
being vulnerable.
also
So,
acting hostile, like rolling your eyes
oh
whenever
yeah,
someone speaks, looking away, getting up and leaving the room while they're talking, making threats. God, I hope no one's making threats in the relationship. But yeah, making threats like such as I knew we weren't really meant to be together, or I'm better
yeah,
off without you. Like those sort of manipulations, those are a form of protest behavior. Acting busy, or being unapproachable, like she said, like ignoring phone calls, saying you have plans when you don't, and
hmm
trying to make people feel jealous. Like those are all examples of protest behaviors. And when you see those protest behaviors, what you can start doing, because these are activating strategies, you can like help calm them down and try not to like, I guess, buy into the protest behavior, because again, like a lot of times the surface level argument or conflict that you're having is not that. That's an effect, but it's not the actual cause. So when you're talking to someone who's exhibiting these behaviors, the more effectively that you can, like, I guess, calm that down and actually get to the core of the problem, the quicker and the easier it is to resolve and establish like a resolution between you and your partner.
For sure. Yeah. It's I always find it interesting because I know you can probably look back to some instances even in high school, or even if you're like, whether it's a relationship that you have or had, or giving your friends advice and you're listening to them talk about like, yo, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you can, like, I can just recall a few times where I had friends who exhibited protest behavior in a relationship, and I'm like, wow, like I have a name for it now. I can be like, hey, you're exhibiting this, like, because there's a threat. You are outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
Um, I'm gonna like share this anxious attachment. Let me know how this looks on the screen.
I got
Like
you.
if
Oh
it looks
man,
kind of tiny,
it looks tiny. I
it
can't
looks
like
tiny.
my old
I'm
man
gonna
eyes can barely see that.
zoom in. I'm gonna zoom in. Is that
Yeah,
a little better?
go uh a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more for the
Zoom
people
in
in the
more.
back of the class. Just choto a little bit. Sorry, I'm speaking
Okay, okay.
Japanese.
Okay. Ooh, how about that? Is that the
That's
same?
good. That's good.
All
I
right.
could see that. I could see that.
Let's let me close this over here. Can we close this? Get away, get away. There we go. We
Good
just want this
job.
exit. Turn up. Look at me. Doing
Hey,
tech stuff. Um,
hey.
so I copied this from the book. So we have our comfort zone, and then down here in gray, that's the danger zone. That's like stay away. It's red, like things are getting heated.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought this was a good example of walking through for an anxious person what they feel and what's going on in their head when there's a sign of a threat. In
hmm
this scenario, the sign of the threat is the person's SO, their significant other, hasn't called them today and they're wondering if something wrong.
So I didn't call him
Um,
back today, and that's what she's thinking.
yeah, or he or she. Um, So I have like, so in the book they make it this scenario is a girl hasn't received or a woman hasn't received a call from her boyfriend or her partner. Um but to be a little bit more inclusive, I just changed it to she, he, and try to take gender out of it. Um because
uh,
any gender, not there's not one gender that experiences, at least I didn't, or Terrance, I don't know if you have a different perspective of the book, but I didn't see anything that indicates that one gender aligns to one attachment style more than the other. Did you
yeah.
see anything?
No, like, and that's what we should probably let the readers and the listeners know. Like, be careful with gender stereotyping. I know it's pretty easy to think that women are anxious because that's like the common stereotype, and men are avoidant, but that is actually not the truth. A lot of men have anxious like behaviors, and a lot of women are incredibly avoidant. Like, and from my
Yeah.
own experience, like I guess like going out on dates. I have met women who are, I guess, more avoidant, and also I've met women who are anxious, and also met women who are secure. So it exists between both genders, or the many genders.
Yeah, like, so don't stereotype people to fit into a category. So to be more inclusive, This is a
Yeah.
story about two partners
Hmm.
who one partner has not received a call from their other partner. So to give you some background, um, from my understanding, like there wasn't an argument that took place prior. It's just maybe the person expects a call because this is something that they typically do in their relationship. So they
Yeah.
didn't get a call. They're a little worried. Um, so the sign of a threat in this the threat is, hey, I didn't get a phone call. So if is something wrong, no, but oops, I just saw a message that, oops, I meant to say he or she. Look at me missing stuff.
Look at you.
She or
Nah,
he. Look
you
at
got
me.
this. You got this. We doing this live. Like I said, we building the plane while we're flying it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully it doesn't crash.
God, I hope not. But we can hit an edit point if we do crash and just like go back in time.
That is true. Um, so we do have, like, they received a message and it's like, oh, okay, well, all is well. They're attached. Their activation system has been deactivated. They're
Yeah.
reassured that nothing is wrong, and they go back to normal.
Yeah.
Whereas, possibly something's wrong because maybe he or she's mad at me. You know, I'm gonna try to, reconnect. Try to seek my partner's emotional presence. Try to, like, try to connect really, so that way we're more intimate, or it fulfills my need for intimacy or knowing that there's not a threat. So I'm gonna invite this person to dinner. Um, and if the person was responsive, the partner's responsive, he or she, edit point, right there, he or she will call back, and they're gonna go to dinner and all is good. Their attachment, the anxious person is like, okay, hooray, all is well. I'm back to normal. I can continue about my day. But if they still don't hear from the person, now they're in the danger zone. Like, OMG, like it's been forever. I
Yeah.
left my own office
Uh,
because maybe my partner is leaving me. I am distressed.
yo. I wonder if yeah, so I think I hit my mic. I hit my mic a little bit. Like, God, I wonder if I did that to somebody by accident. I wonder if I like just like not text somebody back and they had like this entire scenario just break down in their head. Yo,
Right.
probably.
And but that's the thing, it's hard to know because it's not like you can know what another person is thinking or feeling.
I was
Um
mad avoidant back in the day. Like back in the
oh
back.
yeah.
This is the old me. I'm secure now. I promise. But back in the day, man, maybe I did that to them indirectly by accident. My bad.
We need to start inserting like the future memes.
I was
Future memes here and
unintentionally
there.
toxic. Like unintentionally toxic. It's damn, man. So much has changed. So much has changed. I am reformed. Yo, but yeah,
Good, good.
go
Don't be
for
out
it,
here
Pay.
giving people heart attacks anymore, not texting back.
I mean, sometimes I just be busy. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm
Oh
joking.
gosh.
But yeah, go for it. Go for it.
All right. So now we're in the danger zone. We're freaking out. Haven't heard from them. I left the office. I went to his office or her office, and their assistant is dismissive of me. They're not in the office. Will I ever hear from this person again? And the answer might be no. This person, the partner left a note on the table, and he or she is leaving, the partner for the assistant. And now this anxious person can start um, basically deactivating. So they have deactivating strategies to feel less threatened and to help them move. Well, kind of get over this. And we have
Yeah.
a section about getting over, like, when you're breaking up, basically the
So
different attachment styles when it comes to breaking
s-
up.
so in
Hmm.
this example, just to give more clarity, like the woman is anxious and the guy is he seems to be avoidant. Like if I had to guess, and
Well,
this uh
hmm well, not necessarily, because down here, the answer could be yes. That this person was just busy. Oh
uh
shoot, no, no, they broke up. My bad. Oh yeah. So okay. So the
okay,
person might have left, a note on the table saying, "Deuces, I'm out. I don't want to be with you. I'm leaving you for the assistant." And
yeah,
now the anxious person can start exhibiting or start having deactivation strategies or implementing deactivating strategies to kind of get over the person, which we'll talk about later.
hmm,
Relationships, like the breakups, like how to get through them with the different attachment styles.
yeah,
Um, and then last but not least, like the person, yes, you will see them again, And it's like, oh, great. Like, I can't believe it. You know, I will never find someone else like him or her. And because you will hear from this person again, now you'll go all the way back up if you follow this line, go back to normal because now you know everything is okay. But while you're in this danger zone, everything is viewed as a threat. So everything is scary.
Everything.
Um, and you might, so if the person left a note on the table, which is a really crappy way to break up with somebody, by the way, they might have been an avoidant person. Um,
Super avoidant. That's
like you're
grimy.
like, I can't even tell you to your face. I'm not
I
gonna send you,
know,
not call you.
man. Damn.
But if that person did do this, there is an anxious avoidant trap. So I'm just gonna quickly show this diagram since it's a good segue, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
zoom in.
About
Because
the
you probably,
anxious avoidant trap.
is this big enough?
I can see it.
All right, good. Um, so look at my beat up Venn diagram. I couldn't find a Venn diagram feature, so
That's
I
an
made my own.
interesting Venn diagram. I was like, that's that thing in the middle isn't that don't look like no two circles colliding together. It look like a circle on top of two circles.
That is exactly what it is, but we're gonna
Oval.
pretend like it's two circles on
All right.
top of each other.
No, I got you. We rolling. We rolling.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
flying this ship.
Yeah.
But where
Flying
these
the ship,
two
Page.
this
Yo,
plane.
yo, Page is
So
in
we're
like
flying this rocket
2021
ship.
right now. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, a yacht? Like, we're flying a yacht? Like,
No,
anyways,
no,
anyway.
not that type of ship.
Okay.
um, all right. So like you might have like this avoidant anxious, and where the overlap is where basically is the sweet zone for the emotional distance. It's
Yeah.
not too far away, and it's not too far away, and it's not too pushy.
Yeah.
And this is the comfort zone. All is well in the neighborhood when you are in this gray area. However, down here is the danger zone where, for instance, say there's a sign of a threat for an anxious person, and the anxious person's behavior fuels the avoidant person, which fuels them to seek more distance,
Yeah.
whereas the avoidance person's behavior fuels the activation of the anxious person, which makes them want to seek intimacy or seek proximity. They want to close the gap. So this is a vicious cycle that keeps happening
They
until it's broken.
reaffirm each other beliefs about each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As an anxious person tries to like really wheel in and get closer to the avoidant person, it just makes them feel more firm in their belief that, yo, I need to create more distance. I
That I
need to
am
maintain
strong and
my
independent.
independence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the same for the anxious person as
And
the avoidant person. Go ahead.
it ultimately caused them to be let down by each other because it's a vicious cycle that only really just ends in them breaking up and like chaos, like like suing because as they
Mm-hmm.
play off of each other and they try to anticipate their next partner's moves, like it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The anxious person assumes everything that the avoidant person is doing is a threat to them, while the avoidant person is just reaffirming the idea that this is why I shouldn't be close to somebody. And then they eventually just draw away from each other. Or the script just repeats itself like in the cycle.
Yeah, you end up on a really crazy roller coaster ride with a lot of ups and downs, and it's
I
just constant.
I mean, just speaking from like experience, like I said, like earlier on, like I think I was more avoidant. Growing up in the city of Cleveland, relying on people,
Mhm.
unfortunately, probably wasn't the best way to get around. You kind of had to be independent. You kind of had to like have like this chip on your shoulder and always like be worried about if someone getting too close. Was that did they have like their best? Did they have your best intentions in mind?
So one thing that we'll touch on later is your as like a relationship inventory. But like when I did an inventory of my previous and existing relationships, I realized that there was a point where I was very anxious, and then I broke up with someone, and then or a person and I broke up, and then I became very avoidant in the next relationship.
Yeah.
And then my current relationship I feel like is pretty secure. But like even during the avoidant page was avoidant AF. Like The
Really?
person would, like, looking back, the person would constantly try to re-establish a connection, and I just felt like that was just pushy and too much pressure, and it made me like just slow, like not even slowly, like I would abruptly take like a step to the side, like whoo, like this is getting a little bit too like I wasn't, but like it's kind of like this, like, and the more that that person tried to establish a connection, the more that I felt the connection was forced, and the
Yeah,
more that I felt like my, like, this person is trying to infringe upon my independence. I need to reestablish my independence by doing X, Y, and Z unhealthy behavior.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely, I definitely, I've been on both sides of this
It,
cycle.
and it takes a while to change. Like, I was that for so long until, like, I guess reality struck me.
Mhm.
I was thinking before this podcast, like, what exactly, I guess, made me more of a secure person. And, like, honestly, I think it was probably like moving to Japan because, again, like, where I'm from, like, being independent is something that is often celebrated. It's something that is often like championed, like, not depending on anybody, not really having emotions. And I know, like, a lot of guys feel like that. But I think when I moved to Japan, like, again, if you go back to that prehistoric topic that we were talking about when we were introducing these attachment styles, like, if you, like, the cavemen and cave women who are independent, like, who go off and try to be by themselves, they eventually lose. I think me moving to a foreign country really, like, helped me become more secure. I think that was the tipping point for me because now all of a sudden, if I moved to Japan, I did not speak the language. I was put in this small country town where I didn't know, like, a single soul. So if I didn't actually, like change my behavior and change my ways, I don't think I could have mentally survived that because I started to have to rely on people. I started to have to, like, create connections and, like, really build relationships with people because I am far from anybody that cares about me. I'm far from my closest friends and family members. So I think that was the real tipping point for me because that's what triggered me to read these genres of books, at least personally. Like, I started reading Attached, I started reading, like, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F, like, and that really, like, I guess, shifted my mindset. And, like, reading books like this actually made me, I guess, it started to make me internalize why, being a secure person is important. And yeah, like, I started to look at, like, secure models. The book actually talks about that, like, having a secure role model. And, I
Mhm.
started to, like, exhibit some of those behaviors. And at least not to give any spoilers, I think in my next relationships with people, like, I try to, like, proactively address a lot of their feelings and a lot of their concerns because I understand, like, why being avoidant, it can be, like, very hurtful and you don't even realize it's hurtful. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I know the book talks about a lot how, you know, the focus does on how relationships can, make, change your attachment style, but it doesn't really touch on those like important life events.
Yeah.
And I can imagine moving to another country and basically having to start fresh and, make these
Yeah.
new relationships does fuel a deep sense of, okay, I need to work on this. So
Yeah.
I think it makes sense, and I'm glad you shared it because that's one thing that at least I don't remember, it being in the book, how life events can change your attachment styles. So,
It talked about, like, in, like, one sentence. They didn't go into, like, like, extreme details, but yeah, that's kind of like what happened to me. I actually at first became familiar with this book probably 2 years ago. And then
mhm.
I didn't finish it. Like, I read some of it, and, like, I read the introduction chapters, and the introduction chapters alone, which gave me, like, a lot of perspective. And then, like, I tried to read it again in 2019. Like, clearly I don't finish books. And then, like, prepping for this podcast, like, well, I actually finished it. So, like, I like to say I understand a lot more about attachment, and I understand a lot more about relationships just through life experiences and just, like, looking at, like, this research that's inside of this book. Like, it's like, it's just certainly helpful in general. I mean, not just this book, but, like, books that, is adjacent to it that can, like, build and expand on upon this information that you take away from this. Like, it certainly helped me.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that you finished it. Because it's a
that would be
it's
that
a
would be
really good
wild.
book.
Yo, like, that would be so wild if we had, like, a book club podcast. I'm just like, yeah, like, so yeah, attachment styles, blah blah blah. This is the summary of it, and it'd be like a half-ass summary, and then it's like an entirely separate chapter, like towards the end of the book, with like a plot twist that I didn't even cover. And then the person who actually read the book, who's listening
You're
to our
like, what the
podcast,
heck?
they'd be like, this motherfucker don't know what he's talking about. Like he's contradicting himself, and the information is in the last chapter. But I promise y'all, I read it. Okay,
Yeah, he read it. He read it. I
I
read
did.
it too.
I did.
So
I got
at least I'll be
mad
able to
notes.
fact check if something was a little
Yeah.
sus.
I got mad notes on the screen right now. We in here. We in here. We in here and we potting. We talking about attachment styles.
Oh gosh. All right. No,
This
I
is
think
getting
that was I
crazy.
think
Yeah.
that is a good segue into talking about like for people who are because let's be honest, some people are right now in an anxious avoidant trap.
Are you?
And the book isn't saying break up with your partner if you're anxious and they're avoidant or vice versa. It does give some pretty good advice on how to move towards a more secure relationship. And again,
Well,
25 to 30% of the population can change their attachment
I,
styles.
I think
So keep that in
telling the
mind.
I think the tone of the author like was like almost like discouraging you to be in those relationships unless there's
Mhm.
something really important that require you guys to be together and require you to have a close relationship. Like some people who are married, they obviously don't want to get a divorce once they find out this information, or some people who are taking care of kids together and that's their biggest priority. Like the book does offer a little bit of details on that, but I think for like early relationships and relationships that
Oh
don't have
yeah,
that strong of a bond, it
try to
seems to like
avoid it.
really like just say don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
If you're an anxious person, you should probably date somebody secure, because what that person will end up being for you is a secure role model. So you might have, activating and protest behaviors like in a relationship, but that person will have the ability to calm you down. And what's great about secure people is that they have very good and effective communication. So they can relax you and calm you. And also, if you're an avoidant person, it probably is in your best favor also to date a secure person, because they will be
Yes.
able to better understand you, and they will also be able to encourage you to like slowly open up and slowly become more close and have like a proper relationship with intimacy. So it's in like both of those two attachment styles to like date a secure person, because they can
Mhm.
be they can really help you grow as a person. Yeah.
The caveat, though,
Yeah.
unfortunately, is that the the anxious avoidant trap is very prevalent. You are
Yeah.
statistically likely, if you're anxious, to find an avoidant person because the dating pool for secure people, a lot of secure people are already snatched up or they're in
Yeah.
the process of being snatched up.
Isn't
So the
that like a,
dating pool is usually consistent of anxious and avoidant people. So
yeah.
statistically speaking, you're more likely to find that opposite and not a secure partner.
And then
But
they isn't that like a cliche when they tell you like all the good ones are taken? Like,
pretty much.
damn, right?
Yes, so so if you're just in the early phases of dating, as Terrence said, and you're looking for a partner, and you're on your third or fifth date, however many, even the 10th date, and you find out that you're an anxious person and the person you're talking to is avoidant, you probably don't want to be with that person. Um,
Yeah, be
because you
careful.
might end up in this trap where you're going to be less happy, to be frank. Like an anxious person is more happy in a relationship when they're with a secure person.
Uh,
Avoidant person is more happy when they're in a relationship with a secure person as well. So
uh.
like you got to keep that in mind.
Can I
Dating.
like talk about some of the smoking guns to indicate whether or not you're
Ooh,
dating an
yes.
avoidant person? Because I got a list of these right here.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Those smoking guns. Let
yeah.
them rip.
All
Fire
right. So
away.
it's a list of seven. The first smoking gun is sending mixed messages about his or her feelings towards you and about his or her commitment towards you. Number two, longs for an ideal relationship, but gives subtle hints that it would not be with you. That number.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. That's
That's
crazy,
deep.
man.
That's
Yeah,
deep.
okay. So number three, desperately wants to meet the one, but somehow always finds some fault in the other person or in the circumstances that makes it impossible for them to commit. Number four, disregard your emotional well being. And when confronted, continue to disregard it. Yo, I have
Gaslighting.
Yo, yo, I have done that, and people have done that to me before. I'm not gonna lie to you. But number five, suggest that you're too needy, sensitive, and overreacting, thus invalidating your feelings and making you second guess yourself. Ignore things that you say that inconvenience him or her, doesn't respond or change, or doesn't respond or tries to change the topic instead. Oh, and we have two more. Number six is address your concerns as in the court of law, responding to the facts without taking account your feelings. And the last one, your messages do not get across. Despite your best efforts to communicate your needs, he or she doesn't seem to get the message or just ignores it. These are the seven smoking guns of an avoidant person.
Pew pew pew
Some
pew
of you
pew.
right now are thinking like, damn, man, I do that shit a lot. Like I
Yeah.
at least do like one or two of these. And also you want to keep in mind that like when it comes to attachment styles, it is like a spectrum. It's like
Mhm.
a double axis spectrum. So even if you're secure, you might actually like have some of these tendencies, and even if you're anxious, you might have some of these tendencies. Like no one's, I mean, there's probably a few people who are just like 100% avoidant, and then like 100% secure in themselves, and then 100% like anxious. But all of us fall into a spectrum. Like so, like even me being a secure person, like I man, to keep it real, like sometimes like when I'm not in like the best of moods, and I'm having like a conflict with a person, like yo, I'm like Judge Judy. Like, yo, what's the problem? And we're just gonna address the facts of the situation, and that can be a little bit hurtful towards the person on the other side because it's we like empathy is incredibly important inside of a relationship. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but empathy is incredibly important. So even if you're like trying to, I guess, be a matter of a fact, like have a matter of fact approach, like you really do want to take account the other person's feelings because ultimately when you're in a relationship, you're establishing a bond. So their feelings is your feelings. So please keep that in mind. If they're not happy, there is no way that you can be truly happy yourself in a relationship. Even for
Yeah,
my
because all you're
avoidant
gonna be
people
doing
out
is
there,
fighting.
beefing, just like straight beefing. It'd be like a cold
Yep.
war in this household. Like, damn, man, like y'all just got like mad tension. Like, like you send someone to the grocery store and they forgot to like pick up let's say like an item on the grocery list, and all of a sudden this shit just blows up and becomes like
Yep.
World War III inside this house. So yeah, just keep that in mind, y'all, because like these like when you're not, I guess, taking into account for your partner's feelings, it can just breed resentment over time. And also like just to go on like a complete tangent, because I've been reading like a lot of books like
Mhm.
this, and I've been also like going through therapy. Like, when you like you don't want to approach it with like it's a court of law, because what a court of law kind of suggests in the undertone that you're establishing it here is that someone is going to win this argument and then someone is going to lose this
Mhm.
argument. And we are
Yep.
and we are trying to at least get into a long-term relationship with somebody. Like winning an argument is never ideal. Like you shouldn't like go out to like, win an argument, because all you're doing is just you're first off you're creating an enemy, a protagonist and an antagonist like relationship dynamic. And as a result, like, it just kind of like just breeds resentment over time, because if you win, that implies that someone loses. So always remember that, you're always on the same side of the negotiation table, and that you're trying to
Mhm.
come with a win-win, or come with at least a good compromise that actually fully takes into account both people feelings. In a book, talks about, like, unfortunately, when you're anxious and you're avoidant, those compromises aren't very good compromises, because the tendency that happens when you're inside this anxious and avoidant trap is that the avoidant person starts to dictate the rules and the dynamic of the relationship, and because you're anxious and you crave intimacy so much, you tend to break first and give in. So you will have an argument with somebody and they were like lay forth the rules, and you'll probably start accepting those rules, but something deep down inside will probably make you feel unsettled and uncomfortable, and that's because your emotions wasn't fully taken into account. So please beware when you're like, trying to strike a compromise that is a genuine compromise. But if you're inside this
Mhm.
anxious avoidant trap, the avoidant person usually tends to win. So if you're anxious, please consider that.
Oh yeah. And to follow up on that, one thing that I frequently say, is whenever I'm in any type of disagreement with anybody, it's not me versus you, it's us versus the problem. And just framing your mind in that way, saying like, yo, this isn't me versus you. This isn't it my way or the highway or your way or the highway. This is more so this is us versus a problem. The problem is the issue. The
Yeah,
partner's not.
yeah,
Um, since you touched on
yeah.
you know, the anxious person having or typically giving in the relationship, I think it's important to talk about the 5 principles of resolving conflict. And I'm just going to just kind of read them off. Number 1 is show basic concern for the other person's well-being. So actually care how your partner
Yeah,
feels.
I didn't even think
Um
about it like that. That's crazy, Paige.
I know, like, who would have thought?
Who would have
Uh,
thought? Like that's crazy, man. That's some new shit. That's that 2020 vision we got right here.
Yep, I wish I had 2020 vision. Oh gosh. Um, glasses. Um, Number 2 is maintain focus on the problem at hand. So if there's a problem, like if the problem is, Terrance, I am so sick and tired of you not putting the toothpaste cap on when you get done using the toothpaste.
Why you tripping?
Focus on that. Don't go into like and another thing and another like
You,
focus
you don't you
on
don't
that
pick up your
problem at
clothes
hand.
like you leave your
I
clothes in your
know.
mess
It's
everywhere,
just
man. You talk about
dominoes.
this toothpaste. Let's talk about these dishes. Like, nah, like,
Exactly. And it just ends up going back and forth because I'm like, yo, Terrance, this toothpaste. And then you're like, yeah, but those dishes. I'm like, yeah, but that car. And you're like, yeah, but those clothes. And it just,
well,
the person who initiated the problem, the
yeah.
problem's not being heard.
It's like,
And
what
it's not,
aboutism?
yeah, what about ism? Oh, I hate that. Like, stay on the topic, people. Stay on the topic. um, number 3, can't count sometimes. Number 3, refrain from generalizing the conflict.
Hmm.
So don't go, we're talking about toothpaste and, the disagreements about toothpaste. Don't just start jumping to the worst case scenario like that's why we'll never work. You always do this. Like, stay away from blaming words like always, um,
Never.
never. Like, you want to really just, again, refrain from generalizing the context and just conflict as if it is going to be the downfall of your entire relationship and or existence if
Yeah,
you
it's
want to
not that
get
deep.
dark about it.
It's not that deep. It's not that deep.
Not
If
that
if
deep.
it's toothpaste, just stick to the toothpaste.
Stick to the toothpaste.
I feel like
Number
there's a pun in there
oh,
somewhere. Just somewhere. Like
you said what?
stick to the toothpaste. Like
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
know. I'm looking for
This
the pun. I'm looking for the pun. If you're listening,
toothpaste.
please find it.
Yeah, find the pun in that one.
Yeah, yeah. Go for it. Go for it.
Number 4 is be willing to engage. So this is specifically for those anxious folks because because you're avoidant, you might try to completely avoid the conflict, which isn't going to solve said
Yeah.
conflict. So you have to be willing and able to engage to get it resolved. Both parties need to be engaged. One person can't be, texting on their phone or watching TV or like, not active listening.
Uh-huh.
And if for the folks who might not know what active listening is, just really quickly, active listening is when you are being very attentive to the person that's speaking. So you're
Yeah.
listening, you're looking at them, looking whether it's eye contact or in their general direction. You're not distracted by other things. And you're listening to understand and not listening to respond.
Yeah. Yeah.
So active listening, people.
Their words and their feelings are a priority to you. Like you really take in consideration like what exactly they have to say because it should be important to you, if especially if you're in a relationship with them.
Exactly. Because if it's like Terrence said earlier, if one person is unhappy, you both are unhappy. You move as
Yeah.
a unit, your emotions are a unit.
Yeah.
So, oh, go ahead.
I was just actively listening right now.
Oh, oh, oh.
Yeah, you see that? You see that? Like that was smooth, right?
That was very smooth, very smooth. So the last one, number 5 in the principles is effectively communicate feelings and needs. So that's and we should probably touch on effective communication principles, but just being able to tell the person specifically what you need, maybe even why you need it, and don't focus on blaming that, focus on that they're not fulfilling this need. Just
Yeah.
focus on the fact that you need to express this
Uh,
need or this feeling. Um, and segue into effective communication principles, there's also 5 of those. So if you're going to effectively communicate your feelings and needs, you need to, one, wear your heart on your sleeve. Be vulnerable. I
Hmm.
know a lot of people think of vulnerability as a weakness. Vulnerability is actually courage, it's strength, it's bravery. So being able to wear your heart on your sleeve is the first step in being able to effectively communicate with folks because you're able to be more honest and true.
So,
Um,
so
mhm.
can I give like a little bit of background
Yeah, yeah.
of effective communication? I got some notes here.
Ooh,
So,
go.
number one, number one when it comes to effective communication is to choose the right partner. But effective communication is the quickest and most direct way to determine whether your prospective partner will be able to meet your needs. And the
Mhm.
book is talking about, I guess, when you're going out on dates and you're trying to determine whether or not someone is effective communicator, just check out for this. So your date's response to effective communication can reveal more in 5 minutes than you can learn in months of dating them without this kind of discourse. If the other person shows a sincere wish to understand your needs and put your well-being first, your future together has promise. All right. To make sure that your needs are met, whether it's a brand new one or a long-standing one, another is the beauty of effective communication is that it allows you to turn a supposed weakness into an asset. If you need to be reassured in a relationship and you need to like know that your partner love you and is attracted to you, instead of trying to conceal that because it's not socially acceptable and you might sound needy, just state it. Like just be honest. I mean, there's another book that kind of talks about like just having the courage to be honest and the courage to be vulnerable. But yeah, vulnerability is not a weakness. If you feel like you need something, because all of us need things, and you should like like really respect your own needs. Like just communicate it. Don't really be like accusatory. Don't really blame them. Just just let them know like, hey, like I need to spend more time with you, or hey, I need to like I guess see you more like after work, or I want to hear from you more. Like it makes me feel better, it makes my day better if you can like send me a good morning text. Like it's there is nothing wrong with that, and if you're with the right person, like they will hear those needs, and they'll at least try to come up with some sort of solution that makes them feel comfortable, as well, and like hopefully both of you two can grow together because conflict isn't always bad. Conflict, if done correctly, can be a great way to like I guess bond and like establish a deeper level of trust if you are able to get into like a minor conflict with somebody and then like I guess reestablish and create a stronger connection because of the resolution. So with effective communication, you might not be able to solve your problems or resolve the differences in one shot, but you can immediately judge how important your well-being is to your partner. So keep these several principles in mind. I'm about to like lay down for y'all. Uh, does he or she get to the bottom of your concerns? Does he or she respond to the issue at hand and does not try to dodge you? Does he or she take your concerns seriously? Or does he or she tries to belittle you or make you feel foolish for raising them? Does he or she try to find ways to make you feel better, or is he or she acting defensive? And last
Mm.
one, is he or she replying to your concerns only factually, like I said before, as in a court of law, or is he or she in tune with your emotional well being?
And we're back.
And we're back. We're back. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we are back and we're better than ever, hopefully.
Back in black, baby.
Yeah, yeah. So like I got a little bit more for y'all if y'all still rocking out with me. So why is it so hard for insecure people to adopt effective communication? Because a lot of those avoidant traits and a lot of those anxious traits are coming from a place of insecurity. And
Mhm.
oftentimes people who are insecure can't really get in touch with what's really bothering them. They might, feel overwhelmed by their emotions and lashed out. So here's my advice to someone who's more anxious. When you start to feel something that's bothering you in a relationship, you tend to quickly get flooded with negative emotions and think in extremes. Unlike a secure counterpart, you don't expect your partner to respond positively and to anticipate, but you anticipate the opposite. You perceive the relationship as something fragile and unstable that can collapse at any moment. These thoughts and assumptions make it hard for you to express your needs effectively. When you finally talk to your partner, you often do it in a way that's explosive, accusatory, critical, or threatening, Rather than giving you reassurance that you're seeking, your partner will probably withdraw. And for my avoidant people, and this is a bit of a long one. Also, these are just excerpts from the book. Like I didn't really write this, so I don't want to like just like say I'm just writing these and I'm just saying it to y'all. But although there's nothing for an avoidant, although there's nothing that brings two people closer than understanding and being understood by each other, effective communication has something to offer the avoidant person as well. As someone with an avoidant attachment style, you are often unaware of your need for distance and separateness. You feel the need to get away, but don't understand why. When you get that feeling, you make the assumption that you're beginning to be less attracted to your partner, which in case, what is there to talk about? He or she probably is not the one. So why prolong this agony? But then you find yourself in one failed relationship after another, and you just keep repeating the same cycle. If you're avoiding, the first step, therefore, is to acknowledge your need for space, whether emotional or physical. And when things get too close, then learn how to effectively communicate your needs. Explain to your partner in advance that you need some time to be alone when you feel that things are getting a little bit too mushy and that there's a problem and that there's not a problem with him or her, but rather you need to express your own needs in this relationship. This is super important. This should quell their worries and somewhat calm their attachment system, and they are less likely to intensify their efforts to draw closer to you, which make you uncomfortable the most. Thus, there's a better chance that you will avoid a full-blown pursuit withdrawal dynamic with your partner. So, like these are two, I guess, ideas that I want you guys to keep in mind if you have avoidant or if you have, I guess, an anxious attachment style. So yeah.
And when you're expressing, your need for closeness or space, going back, you want to make sure that you are communicating effectively. So
Hmm.
you want to be vulnerable. You want to focus on your needs and understand that your needs are valid and
Yeah.
your needs are valid. So you want to focus on your needs. You want to be specific. Don't just walk up to your partner if you're an avoidant person and say, "Yo, I just need space." But like you're not, being specific like, "Hey, I just, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need space. Let's put a time on it. I need like a few days of space. I need 3 days of space because X, Y, and Z." And don't blame your other partner. Like, in the midst of you communicating your needs, do not blame the other person for not being able to fulfill your needs. Because assume positive intent. That person may not know what you need. So you have to communicate it to them and without blaming them. So focus on how say words like I feel or I need. Don't be like you, because you're probably going to just start a fight. And then last, be assertive and non-apologetic. And this is especially for my anxious folks because again, we are in a society that unfortunately, if you really need closeness is somewhat looked down upon.
Hmm.
And we have constant cues, constant media, constant, things online that's basically saying if you need to be close, that's a you problem. Something's wrong with you. That's
There's
not the
nothing wrong
case.
with you. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay to need it. So be assertive about your needs, be non apologetic, but of course remain respectful in the process. But
Hmm.
be vulnerable about it. And vulnerability is completely okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I'm trying with personally. I'm trying to be more vulnerable. I'm trying to be more honest. Like I guess I think part of the reason why I was avoidant was that like earlier on, like I guess I wasn't fully able to, I guess, understand my own feelings and to like be 100% honest with myself. So I would find myself withdrawing and not exactly knowing the reasons why, like the book suggests. And over time, like as I started like being more vulnerable, and I started treating vulnerability as an exercise and just interpersonal relationships. Like I think I was able to like I guess build stronger connections with people because I was able just to say exactly how I felt and like was willing to accept that. And that kind of helped me when it came to dating as well. Like like oftentimes like when I was much younger, like it was so much harder for me to date because I guess I wasn't too sure exactly what I wanted and whether or not I can. And I guess this is actually kind of anxious, like whether or not I can, like if I'm texting this girl, like is if me saying exactly how I feel, would I push her away? Like, am I doing too much? But like, I guess as I got older, I just say exactly how I feel and just let the chips fall where they fall because yeah, I just think that's the best way to go. Like if it doesn't work out, like then it doesn't work out, and you just saved
Yeah.
yourself like months of like I guess just like chasing after someone.
Who's
So
not
yeah,
right for you?
exactly. So
Be
like just
vulnerable, people.
like yeah, just communicate your feelings and don't be afraid because that fear of rejection can really hold people back, and that's the craziest thing. Like you're so nervous about being rejected that you you tend to almost create a self-fulfilling prophecy, and rejection just isn't a bad thing. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
put your feelings out there and that person cannot properly understand it, then they weren't right for you to begin with. So it's almost a gift. Like the possibility of being rejected is almost a gift because if you let rejection be your friend, you can like, save yourself a lot of valuable time. And the most important thing in the world is time. So just keep that in
Oh
mind.
yeah. We need like some choir music in the background or
Some
people
choir
like
music.
preach. Some
Yeah, some choir
preach.
music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's man, that's the hardest thing. I mean, like that vulnerability, man. I know like a lot of guys struggle with that, but like it's like it is something that you just get better with. I am not perfect at all, but the more I'm honest with myself, the more honest I can be with other people, and the more I guess I accept myself, the more I'm willing to accept that certain people just aren't meant for me, and certain things just isn't meant to be. Like you shouldn't worry or stress about something that you don't get because it wasn't really meant for you in the first place. So like, yeah, I'm just riffing at this point. I think I'm even just going on a bit of a tangent, but that's what this podcast is here for. Like, we're not just here
Yes.
just to like, just serve you facts on a platter like it's Thanksgiving. You can
Serve you
see where,
so stories. You get nice
yo,
filled stories. I do want to say though,
uh,
not like women. There's quite a few women that struggle with vulnerability as well.
really?
Um, yo, yeah, I know a few.
I don't think I,
Um,
I don't think I met those women. I think a lot of women just like, no, I think I have. I think I have. Go ahead, Paige.
yeah, there's a lot of women that struggle with vulnerability. And the thing is, on the surface though, even if you're dating somebody, a woman, and you might say, "Oh, this person being vulnerable with me," they
Yeah,
might not be being vulnerable with you.
you think
Um,
so?
so
What do
like
they
for
go?
instance, they might be like you might be talking about something and they might not tell you that whatever you're talking about is causing discomfort
Yeah,
because they're not going to be vulnerable and tell you they're uncomfortable.
yeah,
They're not going to be vulnerable and tell you, and no, this isn't all women, just like it's not all men, but there's people on both sides, on all sides,
hmm
um,
but
that struggle with vulnerability.
I feel like women want men to be more vulnerable. Like when I go out there and I talk to like women, like a lot of times like they almost want a guy to be like honest with their emotions. Like like so a woman like so I'm actually this. So like a
Yeah,
woman, some women, some don't
yeah, yeah,
want to
yeah.
be vulnerable. Do those same women want a guy to be vulnerable with them as well?
It can be yes and no. So I
Yeah.
know a person where, they're not vulnerable and they don't want the guy to be vulnerable. And then I know women who want a vulnerable guy, but they're not vulnerable themselves.
Yeah.
Um, so they're okay listening to other people share their feelings, but they're not going to share theirs.
Why do you think that's
Um,
the case? Like what could be going on, I guess, internally that they don't want to be
maybe
vulnerable?
one, they might be anxious or avoidant.
Yeah.
So like if you're anxious, you're gonna like that someone is telling you about their being vulnerable with you. You're gonna like it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you might not feel comfortable to wear your heart on your sleeve because
Yeah.
you're fearful that it might be a threat to the relationship.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're an avoidant woman, you might be like, oh, I don't want this guy telling me he's being too vulnerable, this is getting too close for me. But
Yeah.
then at the
Yeah.
same time you don't want to be close.
Yeah.
um
I think I
so
met someone like that before.
it depends. Like there's definitely, and there's a whole book, just want to shout it out right now, Dare
Shout
to
it out.
Lead.
Dare to lead. Yeah, that might be the
our
next book.
next book
Yeah,
our
that
next
I think.
book, and it talks about vulnerability.
Hmm.
And the author, Brene Brown, talks about how she struggles with vulnerability and how she sees a lot of people, men and women, struggle with it. So it's a
Yeah.
real problem in our 21st century.
I think just in my life, like, vulnerability can, like so I think I was reading this book about the Dalai Lama, and it says that growth occurs when you're actually at that end point. So you know, at that point of comfort that we often don't pass, like that we like, you know, the conversation is starting to get a little bit too close, and like before you hop off that ledge, you pull it back. If you just
Mm-hmm.
push just a little bit more, I think that's when like growth occurs. Like I just speak from my own experiences, like not even in relationships, like a lot of things and other things in life helped me become more vulnerable. I know like when I first moved to Japan, I started DJing. Like, you know, the club owner was like, "Yo, I'm gonna teach you how to DJ since you don't know how to DJ. But like, yo, here's the catch: like, you're gonna be like, you know, DJing right in front of people because we're not gonna do it during closing. We're not gonna do it when we're not open. We're gonna put you there on the off day, and then you're gonna have to like, you know, sink or swim." And that was I guess in many ways like kind of like a vulnerable moment because you know the thing about being a DJ is that yo people give you instant feedback with their feet. Like if you play music and them motherfuckers ain't feeling it, they're gonna walk out. They're gonna go grab a cigarette. They're gonna get a drink. So like I kind of had to like fell in person. Like I kind of had to like fell in front of people, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I became more character building. I became more accepting of my own mistakes, my own shortcomings, because you know we're none of us is perfect, and we're all you know placed in this world to fail. And you know, I think we also got to examine our relationship of what exactly failure mean, because you know, like failure is just like it brings you closer to success. And when you, I guess, aren't afraid of that rejection. You aren't afraid of failing with that girl or afraid of failing with that thing that you're doing in life. Like it just brings you closer because you can learn so much from failure. So many people are so afraid to fail that they only do things that make them successful, and that can be a misguided pursuit in life because when you're when you're chasing when you're only doing things that make you successful, you tend to overestimate how much you actually know. And a lot of that success can be just simply drawn from like you know just circumstances of like just luck or just knowing the right people. But when you fail, like there's just so much critical feedback that you get that I think a person who constantly like pushes themselves outside of that comfort zone, as mentioned before, has a lot more opportunity to grow. So yeah, what do you think?
I I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah,
I typically, whenever my friends are in a place where they're questioning their next move because they're questioning if they're smart enough, if they're good enough, if they have enough knowledge about the subject, if
right.
they're, motivated enough, I usually tell them that when you're outside of your comfort, discomfort is an opportunity for growth.
Yeah,
Change is an opportunity for growth.
yeah,
And I 100% agree. If you are stuck in your comfort zone, you were pretty much not pushing yourself to really grow, and you're not really maximizing your full potential.
yeah.
Um, Trying new things, and especially those things that make you fearful, those are the things you want to try.
Say some, say some. I think that's part of the reason why I came out here to Japan. You know, like I told myself like you know my ultimate goal again, like we said earlier in the pod, is that you know I wanted to start a business and but I also had like a bug to travel. So I know I can't really like you know get hampered and focus on the business if I have this need to travel because I'm gonna have to put one to the other side. So you know coming to Japan like you know like I was just a fish out of water completely. I did not speak the language. I didn't have any connection to any like to the people here. You know, I was one of those guys who only really knew Japan for like anime and video games, so I didn't know much about like you know East Asian culture. So, like, I was in a very vulnerable state over time, and I think that's where my security came from because, you know, if you don't allow things to break down in your life, then there's no room to grow. So when I came to Japan, like a lot of my foundation, a lot of the preconceived notions that I had just was just fundamentally just broken, torn apart, and like shred to pieces. Like life like treated me like Thanos with all the Infinity Stones and just snapped away half of my secure base. But that was hard at first. It was really hard. I gotta admit to you, but after a while, like you know, it left this open void for like so much to like just come and replace that and those things that replaced it was just so much stronger. Like they say like when you break a bone, the bone actually grows back stronger. I really do feel like my experience here has been like that because I think that's what really broke me out of my avoidant shell because I had no other choice to respond to these stimuli that are happening in my life. And I'm not even like implying like this is natural. All of us respond to like things that happen in life differently. At least that's what my therapist says. So like I guess for whatever reason, like when these things started to break down, like I started to like leave room for like the I started to leave room for like better tools like vulnerability, and I replaced like you know just like you know complete independence with relying on other people and like trying to work as a team. I replaced like, like a general coldness with like vulnerability. I became more empathetic and I started to understand how people can be just exposed in life and like feel exposed and just feel like there's like nothing that they can do to control the situation. So I guess that helped me become more understanding with myself, and that actually helped me like I guess have a better relationship with myself. So yeah, we
It's
getting
good.
deep. We getting
We're
deep.
getting deep in here.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. I mean, this is why we got this platform. Yeah.
Yeah, these real life experiences, I feel like um will definitely resonate with a few folks at least.
I mean, I feel like you.
Hopefully.
I feel like you, but like we gonna get to you, Paige. Like I feel like
Oh snap.
like you moved to Seattle. I mean, you moved there with your boyfriend, so maybe you didn't have like that full like breakdown, but it has to be like a moment like where you kind of like felt vulnerable. You're working on a startup, and like I'm not gonna have you like probe too many details on this pod, but like I imagine a lot of that's like just like uncharted territory for you. You want to speak on that?
Oh yeah, yeah. It is completely uncharted territory, and it does put you in a very vulnerable position because you kind of ask yourself, do I know enough about this to even who am I to try to be an entrepreneur? Who am I
Yeah,
to try to build this awesome platform, this awesome product?
yeah,
And I don't know. In the midst of doing it, I definitely had to really learn how to, you know, to reel it back in and say, you know what, I know this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to continue to move through. I know I'm having all of these doubts, and these doubts can be very discouraging. And even not even just the doubts, when shit doesn't fall through, when you think
yeah,
like, yo, I got this plan and I am doing X, Y, and Z, and this deal didn't go through, or this contact was faulty. Um or I got this feedback that like really was just like, crushing.
like
um that puts you in a very vulnerable spot where you're like, okay, am I good enough to do this?
you start to
um
blame yourself.
yeah, you start to blame yourself, you start to doubt yourself, and in those moments, I'm lucky enough to have a secure base and secure people in my life to say, you know what, you got this. And even just that little bit of encouragement, or just seeing when I talk to people, like for instance, I went to Afrotech last year and the year prior, but
Yeah,
just like going, and when I shared my idea with other people that I don't know, like with strangers, I say, hey, I'm working on this cool thing, what do you think about it? Sometimes just seeing their eyes light up helps get through that dark period.
yeah,
um but for me, like, I started to move more towards security when I start going to counseling as well. There was a lot of rough things that happened in college, and
yeah.
you know I don't know if you remember, Terrence, maybe you don't, but I was very isolated at a point where I would only hang out with like you and Dylan. And
Yo,
like,
like
it was
yeah.
to the point where Jasmine was like, "Do you even like me?" Like my roommate. I was in a roommate. To give people some backstory, I was in a quad, so it was four girls in a room,
Oh my God, like
and
shit was chaos.
I did not I did not talk to them. Like, it was second semester, and Jasmine was like, I was real nervous because our other
Uh,
two roommates left. She was like, I was real nervous that it was just gonna be me and you because I you never talked to me. But I was very detached. Um, so yeah, I don't know. There was quite a few things in college that persuaded, I wouldn't say persuaded me to go to therapy, and that just definitely helped start building that secure base within myself.
yeah,
So,
being a late teen and being in your early 20s, it feels like you're just like launched into adulthood without a roadmap, and you just have to
oh
kind of like
yeah,
just brave the wilderness. You know what I'm saying? Like you kind of
sink
just
or
have to like
swim.
just walk right through it. And honestly, that can be like really scary. So like all of us start to like respond to walking through these scenarios like in different ways. Like some people when they're walking through this wilderness of their early 20s, like they tend to only like walk the path that has like been traveled before, where you already see footsteps. Some people try to veer left and just go completely out of bounds, like, and in that process they might run into a bear in this as I carry this metaphor, and then they might like become more reserved, or they might continue to fight and like just see other things. And like like it's we don't really process what's happening to us during these times, and they just start to become like character builders, and they start to like, shape who we are. Like these forces shape who we are. We don't even realize it. So like having that time for introspection, like, and then really like determine like, hey, like this is what's happening to me in life. This is how I'm responding to it. And do I like the ways that I'm responding to it? Can be a really good, like, course corrector. And like one of the best things that I guess about reading this book is that they do talk about secure base. Like there's nothing wrong with feeling like you need somebody. Like, I mean, wait, sorry. I mean, when I say need, please carry that with a strong caveat. Like, you shouldn't really like need somebody. Like you should want to be with somebody, but like there's nothing wrong with feeling like, yo, you want that secure base because just to have that, just like that child who's playing with toys, who's like a secure child who sees the mother in the room, that child like will actually like, I guess, start to experiment more because they know like if something were to happen, like their mother is just always there for them. So like, a secure base can be like, friends. A secure base can be family. A secure base can be like, the partner that you're with in a relationship. So like cultivating that team and that support circle around you can be absolutely important if you want to just like keep pushing through. I mean, you can be this lone wolf and this lone warrior, but that does come at a cost. And you have to determine whether or not that cost is for you. Because at least for me, like when I was in my early 20s, like I would just blindly focus on ambition. Like my character traits and who I was as a person was completely based on what would get me to my end goal, and like that made me absolutely horrible in my first relationship because if like I would, what are you talking about, man? About getting this money? Like, like what are we talking about here? Like I'm trying to work right now. Like, like you wanna hang out? Nah. Like I was, man, damn, dude. I feel
Get
I
that
feel so bad.
money.
Yeah, I feel so bad. But like like life had a way of humbling me, and like I did a little bit of course correcting myself, and I started to realize like like hey, like like take some time out to like like create reestablish the relationship you have in your head, because my blind ambition made me be super critical of myself. And as a result, like in college, like one of the feedback that I was given is that I would be too hard on other people, and I worked on them as a team, worked on them
Mm,
as like team members. Like I was for my capstone project, I was like a team leader. Like I was like the
mhm.
project manager, and like the feedback that was given, like like, I remember this one situation where this girl got really upset because I think I critiqued their logo. Like, and I mean, I didn't think the logo was very good, and I still don't. But um, sorry about that. Maybe I should have an edit point there. But I probably should have been a little bit nicer. It wasn't that I was trying to be mean. It was just that I was trying to push her, and like I had this self-centered vision of what this project can become, and I didn't really get feedback that well, and that feedback had nothing to do with her, but had everything to do with the feedback that I would give myself. But I was used to that sort of feedback, but maybe she wasn't. So like nowadays I try to be more, I guess, more just nicer, just more elegant with my approach and like talking to people, because I'm elegant with myself. Like I understand that if I'm not having a good day, man, I'm not having a good day, and like it doesn't benefit me just to sit here and just blame myself. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to, like, if I start off with loving myself, I can give love to other people. And a lot of people don't understand love because they don't truly love themselves, and that's where insecurity comes from.
Boom, hit it right on the nail. Because it is. Yeah, when you don't give yourself grace, when you don't how to
Yeah,
give yourself mercy, when you don't love yourself, if you're like overly hard on yourself, you're gonna just project those behaviors outward to unsuspecting folks
yeah,
who, might not receive that well.
yeah,
One of the things that, to touch on, like not from this book, but just in general from another book that I read, is like
uh,
empathy. You need to have empathy for yourself before you can really have empathy for others. Because if you
yeah.
don't have empathy for yourself and compassion for yourself, like self compassion, how you gonna give compassion to somebody else? Because
Can't give
just like
what you
in your
don't have.
scenario, you're like, well, I'll do this to me. Like I don't mind this, so this person, they
Yeah.
shouldn't mind it either. Um, but yeah, just a small added.
And this is why it's so important to, I guess, to communicate your feelings, because let's talk about the idea of love. And like, there's like there's like, this pop psychology that talks about like the languages of love. Like when you get into a relationship with somebody and you tell them that you love them, I mean, that person can receive that verbally, but what exactly does that love mean? Because all of us have a different
Mm,
perception and a different meaning of what love mean. And that, just communicating what exactly does love mean, like to yourself, and then you can like share what you feel like love means to the other person, can also give someone that reassurance. Because I would get into conflicts in my relationship where I guess my exes would like demonstrate things that they would demonstrate like their love for me, and I won't even pick up on it because the way I show love it is not the same at all. And like one of the things that I've been grappling with is like understanding that, I shouldn't expect me from other people, and I should let certain people just be themselves and show me who they are and accept them from who they are. Because yeah, like, it can be a conflict in that. Like, someone could be showing you love in the most subtlest of ways and you won't even pick up on that. And then like, in relationships, and this I'm more so giving myself feedback on this pod, like all right, what do I want to say? I guess like, in relationship is quite easy to over index, like, or overestimate what you do in the relationship and what you bring to the table, and to underestimate what your partner does. So in your 20s, like you tend to keep score. You tend to think like, you're doing all of this because you see all of your intentions, you see everything that you're trying to do, but the other person might not exactly see it. Like, one of the illest metaphors that I got is like, like life is like a movie theater. Now, if I take you on the story of my life and you're like a crowd member sitting inside the audience, you see my intent, you see exactly what I'm thinking, you see the movie being played out before my eyes. But what if I told you like just next door, you can take like your partner or one of your best friends and see the exact same scenario play out, but from their perspective, where you no longer have access to you as a person or me. And this analogy is like, intent and what they're really trying to do, but you only see it from that other person's perspective. And from that other person's eyes, you can come across as a real asshole, or you can see all the misunderstandings being formed. Now imagine like you're watching my movie and like you're in the movie theater with me, but I'm having an interaction with you. Like you probably think like, and I'm thinking in my head in my movie, like, yo, like this person isn't getting it. How come this person's showing up late? How come this person's doing all of this? And you thinking like, man, like how come the movie isn't showing like, my intent and my backstory, and the reason why I'm late is because my car broke down and all this other stuff. So I guess what I'm speaking on as I go on my tangents is that having empathy and trying to see something from somebody else's shoes or somebody else's viewpoint can be, I guess, incredibly beneficial.
Yes. And in that, be generous with your when you're giving people the benefit of the doubt. Give the most generous benefit of the doubt that you can in a situation.
Yeah,
So if somebody's late to a date, instead of saying, oh, they're inconsiderate, they don't care about my time, I came here on time, and only looking at it from your perspective,
yeah.
give them the most generous benefit of the doubt. Don't jump to the worst case scenario. Jump to like in this situation, the worst case scenario is, yo, I didn't give a crap about you, I was just gonna roll in whenever I was gonna roll in.
Sometimes it'd be
Give
like that. No, I'm joking.
Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you don't want to go on that date.
Mhm.
But like if give that person the benefit of the benefit of the doubt. Assume
Yeah.
positive intent. Be generous. Just say, hey, something terrible must have happened, or something must have happened that prevented them from being getting here on time. And even just like just changing that a little bit, that I think that would significantly improve relationships, because no longer are you looking at things from your perspective. You're saying, yo, let me give this person the benefit of the doubt, and then just ask. Be vulnerable and ask.
I mean, when I'm in my most secure bag, like when I'm in my most secure form of myself, like I try not to take things personally. And like, there's
Hmm.
another book that I want to like talk about by I think Don Miguel Luis. It talks about like the four agreements, and like one of their agreements is like, always do your best. Don't take things personally. Um, and don't make assumptions. And I am completely forgetting about what the last agreement is. Trust me, I can count. So that's 3 out of 4. But like, when I'm when I'm really understanding things, is that I try not to take things like personal at all, because at the end of the day, it's just not about me. Like people decisions and people actions have so much influence that is beyond me. Like the way someone treats me, like, it has everything to do with the culture that they were raised in, the subculture of their
Hmm.
household and how they were raised, and like their overall mood and their attitude towards life. Like there's just so many factors. And I understand that in this storm cloud of like conflict that I'm having with somebody, that maybe 1% is 1% could be about me, if even that. And like the other 99%, it has everything to do with all this, stuff that I have nothing to do with and I had no control over. So like I try to take things personally, and I try not to make assumptions either, because that can also be kind of like infectious, and like really try to ask questions. And I know like I've dated some people who have insecure traits, and like, like one of the main things that I guess a woman would tell me is like, how come you just don't know? And I'm just like, Well, it's not that I'm trying to just be redundant and just like have you like fully explain yourself. It's just that I'm really just trying to like listen with like like full ears, because if I make
Mhm.
assumptions and I'm wrong, that can be even more dangerous because I can do a miscalculation. I can end up hurting you again. So um, I don't know. Like, one of the two illest things in life you can do is just never take something personal and like not make assumptions at all. Like the world would be a better place if he wasn't assuming, assuming intent of people, assuming, different things of people. Like, you can quickly get into generalizations and stereotypes, and you can like ideas can sometimes be infectious, and like some of the ideas that we have in our head, all of our heads can just be wrong, and we would just start placing those ideas onto other people. Like now we're just giving people baggage that they don't have. We're just giving them baggage that they have. Like I carry baggage. I carry resentment from
Mhm.
previous relationships, and I can accidentally place those ideas into someone else, and they'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like that is not who I am as a person." Or like people would do that to me, and I feel like
Yeah.
I'm defending things that is just. I'm like, dude, I didn't even say that. That's not even what I meant. Like, how do we even get here? Like, I end up like being a lawyer for a crime that I didn't even commit, man. Like, it'd be crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I hate when people assume things about me or assume my intent.
Yeah.
Well, let me not say I hate it, because I think I've gotten
You
to a
hate.
point where I don't take it personally when people make
Okay.
assumptions about me. I kind of just be like, all right, like now that I know you have this assumption, let's dig deep into why you have this assumption.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it's usually just projection. Um,
Right.
or insecurity. Oh, I want to give a story actually.
Do it.
So and so this is a positive story, but I'm gonna tell it 3 times, one from each of these types scenarios or attachment types. So that way you can see the difference. But so this is an actual story. So, as you may know, my boyfriend travels a lot. Travels for work a lot. I think he's gone like 75, almost 75% of the time. And, being away, I was like, I miss him. Oh my gosh. And in the process of that, I communicated, we got on the phone and he had to go, and instead of jumping, an anxious person would jump to an assumption like, yo, like, why is this person like, you don't want to talk to me? Um, and avoidant people, they jump to assumptions too. They just handle it differently. Um, and I ended up, texting saying, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling today. I just want to let you know I miss you. Let's reconnect at some time because I feel I miss you." And all was well in the neighborhood. But but let's say instead I made an assumption, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yo, like, why don't you want to talk to me? Like, you don't want to talk to me. You must not miss me." And putting all of those, maybe I felt insecure, like a hypothetical Page felt insecure about the relationship, then I'll just jump to that assumption. Oh, you don't miss me. You don't want to talk to me. You're not do you want to break up? Like, just jumping to assumptions. And that, depending on the other person's attachment style, can put them in a really bad place where now they're having to defend their position in a relationship, and they were none the wiser that this was going on. Like, this is out of the blue to them. So yes, that's just like a small story about, like, yes, be careful with your assumptions, people. Take, like, whenever you're feeling an emotional response to something, and you feel like, you may be jumping to assumptions. Not even if you feel like it. The moment you have an emotional response to something, pause. Just pause.
I try.
Pause for a few moments.
I
Huh?
try. I try. I try. Like I ain't gonna lie, I be getting pretty lit sometimes, but like like when I'm my best version, when I'm appealing to my better angel, so they would say I try to take that deep breath. Like I really do try. That's why
Yes.
sometimes when I have
Take
like
4 of them.
yeah, when I have beef with somebody, one of the illest advices that I've been given and I've been trying to like really like practice is just like whenever I'm upset, just whatever I'm gonna do, just wait 3 days. If you still feel
Yeah.
that way 3 days later, then like I guess do it because you really about that life if you really about to do it. But
Yeah.
if 3 days pass and like you kind of calm, then that's probably your more objective version of you.
Yep. That's how I am when I buy stuff on Amazon.
You
This
wait
is
three
not
days.
sponsored by Amazon, by the way. Yeah, I wait 3 days. So if I see
Yeah.
something and I'm like, yo, I want it,
Yeah.
I just put this into place. I watched Queen's Gambit on Netflix, and I was
Uh,
inspired to start playing chess again.
I
And I was
seen
like,
that.
yo, I'm gonna wait 3 days. It was a great movie, or show. Sorry, great
Yeah.
show, mini series. But yeah, I paused. I waited 74 hours,
Hmm.
and then I was like, oh, cool. I still want this. I'm gonna buy this.
Yeah, like I was about to impulse buy like I'm appled out, man. Like I gotta chill, man. Apple has my left arm and my right leg right now because I was gonna buy like an AirPod, not AirPod, what is that thing called? HomePod, like a HomePod mini, like,
Mhm.
and I was just like, it's like 100 and something dollars. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna
Pause.
chill. I'm gonna chill. I'm
Yeah.
gonna chill. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life right now. I
Wait
might
that
buy it though.
72 hours, and if you still need it or still want it, just be like, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna buy
yeah.
those air home pod home.
It's like a okay, Paige. Okay,
I
now
don't know what's the name of it.
it's a home pot. It's a home pot,
Home
but
pod. I was close. I was
yeah,
very close.
yeah, yeah, like just being measured, like, and that's why it's good. It's like have like I guess like like friends because like I would hit you up and be like, yo, like should I send this text message out because
I'd be like, do it.
I got beef with this dude right now. We're not gonna talk about what the beef was. I'm just like, yo,
Oh,
like
I remember.
I'm about to go in on homeboy, and then like I'm hitting you up like, yo, should I do it? Should I do it? You be like, nah, don't even waste your time. And I'd be like, I'm probably gonna do it anyway, Paige. But like, and then I
Well, if
wait a
you
day.
do like screenshot, like I want to see because
Yeah,
it'll be thoroughly entertaining
yeah,
to
like
watch it go down.
I'm probably about to. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. Then like I decide not to do it because I'm like, you know what, we got like what Michelle Obama say? Like when they go
Low, we
low,
go
we go
high.
high. Like, but like sometimes I be feeling like, man, when they go low, man, we gotta
It's
take it to the
limbo,
floor with
baby.
them. Like, let's get it. Like, let's get this shit popping. Like, I am Mr. Petty. I'll be on the petty party. And like sometimes in relationships, and that'd be like the biggest issue. Like when I get into like deep unresolved conflict in a relationship, and this is how I know like a breakup is like almost inevitable. Where I'm just like, yo, I am not invested at all into making this thing go well, but we are about to have a petty party tonight. Like whatever energy you throw at me, I am about to throw all of that shit back. And then after a while, like the relationship kind of just like falls apart. I try not to do that. And vast majority of the time I don't. But I mean, I think a lot of us been there when like the thing is
Yeah.
just so fucking brittle that like you just want to like, like you feel cut, so you want to cut back. So
You ready to turn up on folks?
yeah,
I've definitely been there, and I'm
yeah.
pretty sure everybody has one of those moments where it's like, yo, I'm about to act out of character. I'm about to act a fool right now.
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in
Oh
here.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that should be my theme music whenever I get into an argument. Like I'm just gonna play the beat like dun 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 dun. Whoa, y'all gonna make me lose my mind.
Up in here. Up in here.
Yo,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that's not right. That's not right because you realize like
No,
you
it's
love
not.
them at the end and you almost
We're not
always regret.
advocating for people to do that, by the way. We're
Don't
just
do that.
saying we ain't perfect, so we've done it a few times.
Don't lose your mind. Like, don't lose your mind and get into an argument. But I do encourage you to listen to that song. That song is lit. But like, it's a good party song. Yo, can you
It is.
imagine like being in like when did that song come out? Like 05, 06? Like, can you imagine being in the club and like someone just drops that song? Like, I imagine like just like guns being just drawn out at that moment, like
I
and like
hope not.
bottles being thrown and like chairs being flipped over. Like, can you imagine like if someone like yo, if it was '06 and I had a house party and I gave someone the aux cord, did they have aux cords back then? 'Cause they had CD players. I don't know. But like I gave someone like the aux cord
No.
or whatever it was back then, and someone played that song in my house, and then people start actually losing their mind, I will be pretty teed. Like I'll be like, yo, like what? Don't play that song. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, what were we talking about? We were talking about losing our minds and like, like being
Yeah.
petty in relationships.
We just went on we were just on a tangent.
Yeah,
But however,
yeah,
so we're at the 2 hour mark.
we
So
are.
let's go ahead and
We
do a
cover
quick
everything.
summary
Yeah,
and cover what's next.
yeah,
So quick summary. One, the psychology behind the attachment theory is partial nature, partial nurture, partial experiences. So there is related to genes. The different attachment styles, security, anxious, avoidant, is related to genes. Related to your upbringing, like how did your parents raise you,
right,
how sensitive your parents were to your needs, and
right.
experiences in romantic relationships.
Yeah, your attachment styles make up who you are, and they tend to be pretty plastic and pretty strong, but they can change over time due to life experiences and also, looking at secure role models and being in a relationship with a secure person.
Exactly. And if you're in a relationship, you're an avoidant person or anxious person in a relationship with a avoidant or anxious person, be wary of the anxious avoidant trap, which is where, you guys, your activation system as an anxious person feeds into the deactivation system of an avoidant person, which
Yeah,
feeds right back into your activation system. And it's a pretty vicious cycle. So in
yeah,
order to break that cycle, if you're in a long-term relationship or you're married, is to just start working towards moving towards being more secure, or trying to be having that more secure attachment type. But if you are in like an early stage of a relationship, you might want to consider breaking that off. Just
consider
saying.
it. Take your time. Like, and, like when you're going out on dates with somebody, like, communicate your needs earlier on. The book has tons of examples that we're not going to cover, like tons of stories, like which are like really good stories.
Yes,
Like some of the
phenomenal.
best ways to learn, like, is through a story. And I think one of the stories was like, yo, I don't know whether or not this guy likes me or not, or this guy's willing to make time for me or not. Like, I think the lady was asking her friend that, and like her friend was
Hmm.
just like, and just say your feelings. Just text him your feelings. Tell him how you feel. And she was like, and she's like anxious. She's like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. And then she decided to do it. And then what's it
She
called?
dodged a bullet.
Yeah, because the dude like was just not attentive at all to her feelings. And like, she was pissed at her friend at first, but then like 6 months later, like I think she found out the guy was like gay, and like he was like in a closet. So like he wasn't able to like, just be in a relationship with her. And like if she would have like, I guess not communicate her needs earlier on, like she could have been in a relationship with somebody who just fundamentally just couldn't like, be the right one for her. So she ended up thinking her friend, who was obviously more secure at the time, when she
Hmm.
told her to tell him that, just say how you feel. Like
Yes.
just communicate that. And like, accepting that possible, like, accepting the outcome no matter what it is I think it's something that we want to add to the summary. Yeah.
Yeah. And be vulnerable. When you're communicating, be vulnerable,
Yeah.
be specific. Don't try to blame the other person, and be assertive and non-apologetic. And if you're in a conflict, make sure you're effectively communicating, but that there's a genuine care or concern for the other
Yeah.
person's well-being.
Yeah. So yeah. So this is our very first podcast. This is not
Yeah.
just to remind you guys who might be listening to like a clip, or who may like stumble upon and scrub through, that this is not a relationship podcast. We are doing
No.
podcasts on books, and it just so happened that the first book that we read was this one, because this is a book that we both were like reading at the exact same time. So like our next few books are going to be like, anywhere between self help. It's going to be
Hmm.
nonfiction. It's going to be
Economics.
We're gonna get really deep into economics. Maybe not for the next episode because we're there to lead, but like we're not gonna like reveal what the other books are in the future. But a lot of those books will be very like like content heavy and very informative. So if you want to rock out with us, you want something to play in the background, you want something to play while you drive in the car, while you're on the train, you're not doing none of that shit because you're not supposed to be. You're supposed to have your ass home right now. This is a pandemic going on. You feel me?
Yes.
So if you're looking for something to
Yes.
play while you're doing the
COVID is
dishes,
real.
yeah, if you're looking for something to play while you're doing the dishes, while you're doing laundry, man, come check us out. Come rock with us. Like
Yep.
we gonna have a lot of deadpan humor in here. You're gonna hear a lot of monotone voices coming, at least from me. And you're gonna hear like a lot of cool stuff. So like yeah, we appreciate y'all. Like we don't have a name for this podcast. So when someone asks us like, yo, how can we find it? You're just gonna probably have to Google our name, Terrance and Payge, for now, as we figure this shit out. Because like we said before,
We're flying the plane for the first
we're
time.
we're building and flying this plane at the exact same time, and we can be either going straight forward and everything is all good, or this can be like a horrible disaster. But we hope that it doesn't get to that point, because we are very good readers, and we hope to be
Yeah.
very good, I guess, podcast hosts as well. Is there anything else, should we say?
Oh yeah. Follow me. I'm Page_Flipper. Page is spelled
Yeah.
Payge. Page_Flipper. Flipper FLIPPER. The regular spelling.
I get the joke. I get the joke. Page flipper. Ha ha. Like,
Flipping
flipping
those
the
pages.
page.
Yes.
A
Hey.
At first, I
But
didn't
yeah,
get the joke. I
follow
was
us
like,
on
"Why?"
Instagram.
Yeah. At first, I didn't get the joke. Like sometimes I'd be out of it. I was like, "Well, why she? Why does account called Page Flipper just pop in? Why would she call herself that? You might flip her like a duck. Like I start thinking of the Pokemon, like the little yellow Pokemon duck. I was like, what? She like
No,
Pokemon? I was
no.
like, oh, that was like
I think
Page
they
Flipper.
spell it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
change the spelling to Flypper because page is spelled with a Y, so it might be changed. But page
Okay.
flipper, yeah, I gotta
Page
flip those
Flipper.
pages.
Well,
I post a book on my Instagram. I try to
yeah.
do weekly, but it's really about to be like once every 2 weeks because I'm on vacation, baby.
Yeah.
So I'm turned
Yeah,
in
like
the house. COVID.
yes, my name is IG Terrance with two E's at the end, Terrancee 95. You can follow me there. I'm reading tons of books at the exact same time. Like if I can throw another shout out to another book that I'm reading called The Promised Land by Barack Obama. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it. It's a great book so far. It is long as hell. That thing is like thicker than the Bible. But like I'm like on chapter 4 or 5 and 6 already, and it's pretty dope. I'm also reading a couple of books on like business strategy and stuff, just for like the fun of it. So yeah, man, like come
Yeah.
check us out, come rock with us. Like
Yes. Rock
we're
with
gonna
us. If you're interested in relationships and economics and venture capitalists and startups and
yeah.
and whatever freaking else we're gonna read about in politics. I don't know if we're gonna touch politics though, so we'll see.